You stood by Aaron every step of the way. You stood by him then. Do you still believe that your fiancé was innocent?
Yes.
Aaron Hernandez had it all: the money, the fame, the NFL contract. But when the walls came crashing down, only one woman stayed standing beside him. What Shayanna Jenkins went through after his death, the lawsuits, the accusations, and the secrets she carried, that story is about to unfold in a way nobody expected. Shayanna's shocking, Dr. Phil, revelations and controversies. Aviel Janelle Hernandez was born on November 6, 2012, the exact same day as her father Aaron Hernandez's birthday. And if that is not the kind of detail that makes you believe in fate, I do not know what will. Aaron himself called her his best birthday gift, and by all accounts, from family friends to Shayanna herself, fatherhood was the one thing that genuinely shifted the trajectory of how Aaron Hernandez saw his own life. He was reckless before her arrival. After Aviel came into the world, he talked about changing. He talked about being better. He talked about being present. And even after Hernandez was arrested in 2013 for murder and eventually sentenced to life without parole, Aviel still visited him behind bars. Shayanna made it happen once a week, sometimes twice. She brought that little girl to see her daddy in a setting that no child should ever have to walk into. But here is the part that really gets you. Aviel had no idea her father was in jail.
No, she has no idea. And I won't tell her until she decides to ask, or if she asks. She thought daddy was at work. That's how we kept it.
Shayanna kept that illusion alive for as long as she could. To Aviel, prison visits were just trips to see dad at work. And when they were together, the bond between father and daughter was undeniable. Shayanna described it plain and simple on Dr. Phil.
As far as their interaction, it was unbelievable. So she was very much a daddy's girl.
Now, since Hernandez died without a will and was never legally married to Shayanna, Aviel became his sole legal heir. A trust fund was set up from his estate, reportedly holding around $700,000, money Aviel would be able to access at age 25. On top of that, Shayanna was pulling in roughly $150,000 a year from Hernandez's NFL pension and Social Security benefits, all designated for raising Aviel. Shayanna was named conservator of the trust. She was the one managing where that money went, and that is exactly where the problem started. In September 2022, Shayanna submitted a request for roughly $10,000 from the trust to cover Aviel's competitive dance lessons. That request went to court-appointed trustee David Schwartz, and Schwartz said no, flat out denied it. His argument was straightforward. With $150,000 a year already coming in, Schwartz said there was no reason to dip into the trust for dance lessons. But Shayanna was not backing down. She fired back by petitioning to have Schwartz removed as trustee, claiming his refusal would force Aviel to quit her favorite activity. And Schwartz? He came right back with receipts. He accused Shayanna of spending over $100,000 in questionable purchases. We are talking $36,858 on clothing, $39,347 on home goods, including $12,000 at home goods alone, $25,577 on online shopping, and $11,792 on self-care, like gym fees, hair, and nails. There were ATM withdrawals, overdraft fees, $4,800 at Harrods, and $10,000 in entertainment expenses. Schwartz wanted Shayanna removed as conservator entirely. She denied every accusation, saying everything she spent was for her children's benefit. As of the latest public reports, no official resolution has been widely reported, and Shayanna continues as conservator while the trust remains intended for Aviel's future at 25. Now, that trust fund fight gives you a window into how complicated life became for Shayanna after Aaron's death, but nothing, and I mean nothing, compares to the day she got that phone call. On April 19, 2017, Aaron Hernandez was found dead in his prison cell at Sousa Baranowski Correctional Center in Shirley, Massachusetts. He was 27 years old. Officers found him hanging from a bedsheet tied to the window of his cell during a routine check shortly after 3 a.m. He had covered the window with cardboard and stuffed the door to slow anyone from getting in. The words John 3:16 were written in ink on his forehead and in blood on his cell wall. The Worcester County District Attorney's Office and Massachusetts State Police ruled it a suicide. No drugs were found in his system, no signs of struggle, no foul play. 3 handwritten letters were left behind next to a Bible, one to Shayanna, one to Aviel, and one to his attorney Jose Baez. The note to Shayanna was the most widely discussed after being released in court filings. In it, he called her his soulmate and told her he loved her. And then, near the end, 2 words that launched 1,000 theories. "You're rich." Speculation went wild. People asked if Aaron had taken his own life to preserve financial benefits for his family. Prosecutors even tried to use that line in arguments against vacating his conviction. And then there was the letter to Aviel. Shayanna talked about it on Dr. Phil, and what she said was telling.
Yeah, it wasn't personal, but it did have her name on the top, as normal. But as far as the content, very vague, very short.
Shayanna described it as loving but surface level. No pet names, no inside references, nothing that only a father and daughter would share. Meanwhile, rumors started swirling that Hernandez had also written a letter to a fellow inmate named Kyle Kennedy. Shayanna addressed that head on.
It's non-existent.
It's not, there isn't a letter.
Right, no, there's no letter for Kyle Kennedy. There was a letter for me.
Months after his death, Hernandez's brain was donated to Boston University's CTE Center. The results came back in November 2017, and they were staggering. Dr. Ann McKee found stage 3 CTE, the most severe case her team had ever seen in anyone that young. Massive tau protein deposits, atrophy in the frontal lobes affecting judgment and impulse control, and damage to the hippocampus and prefrontal cortex. It was the kind of brain damage typically found in people decades older than 27, but even with all of that, Shayanna was not buying the suicide explanation, not for a second. On Dr. Phil in May 2017, she told the world she believed the call informing her of his death was a hoax at first. She talked about their last phone call, how he sounded excited, how he told her he could not wait to come home and sleep in bed with her and Aviel. She said their conversation had nothing to do with ending his life. She sat on that stage and said plainly that she did not believe it was a suicide. And when the Netflix docuseries Killer Inside dropped in January 2020, bringing the sexuality rumors back into the spotlight, Shayanna sat down with ABC News and addressed it all over again.
What was in the documentary that shouldn't have been, in your opinion?
Yeah, I would have to say Aaron's sexuality. You can't describe someone's sexuality without them being here.
She was firm, but measured. She acknowledged that she could not speak for what Aaron felt inside, but she also made it clear that if he had been struggling with his identity, she wished he had told her.
That I was told. And I wish that he would have told me, because I would not have loved him any differently.
That right there sums up where Shayanna stood after everything, grieving, defending, refusing to let the world write Aaron's story without her input. And all of that grief, all of that fight, it was happening while she was trying to build something entirely new for herself and her daughters. Shayanna's new man, Dino Gilmet, and a second daughter. Shayanna Jenkins Hernandez sold the North Attleboro mansion she shared with Aaron in late 2017 for about $1 million and relocated to Rhode Island. That house held memories. It held evidence. It held a life that was never going to be the same. And so, Shayanna packed it all up and started over. But what nobody expected was how quickly the next chapter would begin. Through mutual friends in 2017, roughly a year after Aaron's death, Shayanna met Dino Gilmet. Dino was a former amateur boxer, a bar owner, and an entrepreneur from Rhode Island. He had a daughter of his own named Mia from a previous relationship. And here is the part that the tabloids loved. Dino had briefly been teammates with Aaron Hernandez at the University of Florida. You cannot make this stuff up. The woman who stood by Aaron Hernandez through every trial, every prison visit, every late night phone call, was now building a life with someone who once shared a locker room with him. The relationship moved fast. In May 2018, Shayanna announced her pregnancy on Instagram, calling it a miracle. On June 16, 2018, she gave birth to their daughter, Giselle Gilmet, just 14 months after Aaron Hernandez took his last breath. Shayanna was holding a brand new baby with a brand new man, and the public had opinions, loud ones. The backlash centered on one thing and one thing only: speed. This was the same woman who sat on Dr. Phil barely a year earlier, tears streaming down her face, calling Aaron her soulmate and insisting she did not believe he took his own life. She was still wearing that engagement ring on national television when she talked about their bond.
You're still wearing your engagement ring.
I am.
It's a beautiful, beautiful ring.
Thank you.
You're wearing it now. It's certainly a sign of your loyalty to him.
And she told Dr. Phil she planned to keep that ring close forever, eventually passing it down to their daughter.
Even now, will you always wear that ring?
I'll always have it with me, and I plan on passing it down to Aviel when it's time to.
So when the pregnancy announcement dropped, people were quick to judge. Tabloids like Daily Mail, Radar Online, and In Touch Weekly ran the story sensationally. Some questioned the conception timeline. Baseless paternity rumors circulated suggesting that maybe, somehow, Giselle could be Aaron's child, which made zero sense given that Hernandez died in April 2017 and Giselle was born in June 2018. But gossip does not need logic to survive. Dino confirmed he was the father publicly and shut down the noise. What made it worse for Shayanna in the court of public opinion was Dino's own background. Reports surfaced about a prior felony conviction for assault with a dangerous weapon and bankruptcy filings. Headlines loved the angle. They painted it as the woman who stood by one controversial man now standing beside another. Dino himself acknowledged the negativity, saying he tuned out the ugly comments and chose to focus on the excitement of their growing family. He even said he believed that despite everything Aaron went through, Hernandez would have been glad. Aviel had a sister, but here's the thing. The controversy faded. It was loud in 2018, mostly tabloid fueled, and by 2019, the noise had quieted down. Shayanna and Dino settled into a life that looked nothing like the headlines. As of 2026, they remained together and engaged after nearly 9 years, living a low-key life in the New England area. Dino took on the role of stepfather to Aviel and father to Giselle. Recent family photos from early 2025 show the whole family together. Shayanna, Dino, Aviel, Giselle, and others, looking like a unit that chose peace over drama. And speaking of Aviel, that girl is thriving. She is 13 years old now, deep into competitive dance, training with teams like High Step and Dance, competing regularly, and racking up wins. She even earned first place in an invention convention for a project called Sicky Sippy. Her mother calls her a beautiful star and a mini-me. Aviel has her own Instagram, where she posts about dance and life, with a bio that reads, "Be yourself, because an original is worth more than a copy." At 13 years old, carrying the last name Hernandez in a world that will never let her forget what it means, that girl is carving her own lane. Meanwhile, Shayanna has built a career completely independent of Aaron's name. She works as a licensed insurance broker with Symmetry Financial Group, specializing in life insurance, retirement plans, and annuities. She even runs a separate Instagram for it. On top of that, she launched an event planning business called Mommy and Me in May 2024, tied to family-oriented services. Her main Instagram has over 280,000 followers, and she uses it to share family updates, positive affirmations, and tributes. And the tributes to Aaron never stopped. In April 2024, on the 7th anniversary of his death, she posted a selfie of the two of them together with a caption that read about how he is truly loved and missed. In March 2025, she shared a throwback of Aviel in church, alongside a photoshopped image of Hernandez, writing about privately celebrating their love. When the Netflix docuseries brought everything back to the surface in 2020, Shayanna sat down with ABC News and made one thing crystal clear about how she wanted Aviel to remember her father.
How do you describe Aaron Hernandez to your daughter? How do you want her to remember him?
And her answer was as simple as it was protective.
I would describe her father as a loving individual who obviously loved her.
That is the version of Aaron Hernandez that Shayanna has chosen to keep alive for her daughters. Not the convict, not the headlines, the father. She has described her mission as creating her own narrative. And whether you agree with every decision she has made or not, the woman went from sitting in courtrooms watching the father of her child get sentenced to life in prison, to burying him, to fighting over trust funds, to building a career and raising 2 girls on her own terms. She still maintains Hernandez's innocence. She still wears his last name, and she still remains estranged from her own sister because of what happened all those years ago. And what happened, the actual details of how Odin Lloyd was murdered and how that murder ripped an entire family apart, that is a story that goes deeper than most people realize. The murder, Hernandez's life sentence, and the rift that destroyed sisters. Odin Leonardo. John Lloyd was a 27-year-old semi-professional football player in the New England Football League when he was shot to death in the early morning hours of June 17, 2013. His body was found in an industrial park in North Attleboro, Massachusetts, less than a mile from Aaron Hernandez's home. Multiple gunshot wounds from a .45 caliber firearm, including shots to the back and chest while he was already on the ground. A jogger discovered the body later that morning, and here is the detail that turned this into more than just another murder case. Lloyd was dating Shayanna Jenkins, the younger sister of Shayanna Jenkins, Hernandez's fiancée. The victim's girlfriend and the suspect's fiancée were sisters. You could could not write a more tangled web if you tried. Prosecutors laid out a timeline that painted a damning picture. On the night of June 16, 2013, Hernandez was reportedly upset over an incident at a Boston nightclub called Rumor, where Lloyd had spoken with people Hernandez did not trust. Whether it was paranoia or something deeper, Hernandez summoned two associates, Carlos Ortiz and Ernest Wallace, from Connecticut to his North Attleboro home that night. Surveillance cameras captured all three leaving around 1:12 a.m. in a rented silver Nissan Altima. By 2:30 a.m., they had driven to Lloyd's apartment in the Boston area and picked him up. Surveillance footage captured Lloyd getting into that car, and then the Altima drove about 40 miles back toward North Attleboro. Shortly before 3:30 a.m., gunshots were heard in the secluded industrial park, and within hours, Odin Lloyd was dead. The evidence started piling up fast. Cell phone records showed communications between Hernandez, his associates, and Lloyd around the time of the killing. Lloyd's phone pinged towers along the route from Boston to North Attleboro. A marijuana joint recovered near the body carried DNA from both Hernandez and Lloyd, and surveillance from Hernandez's own home showed him holding what appeared to be a firearm just minutes after the gunshots were reported. On June 26, 2013, Aaron Hernandez was arrested at his home and charged with first-degree murder plus 5 weapons charges. He pleaded not guilty. The New England Patriots released him that same day. Ortiz and Wallace were arrested the following days as accomplices. The trial in Bristol County Superior Court in Fall River, Massachusetts, kicked off in January 2015 and lasted about 3 months. Prosecutors called approximately 45 witnesses. There was no murder weapon recovered, and there were no direct eyewitnesses to the actual shooting. The entire case was circumstantial. But what a mountain of circumstantial evidence it was. The prosecution leaned hard on the timeline. Cell phone pings, surveillance footage from multiple locations, the DNA evidence, and Hernandez's behavior after the murder. A .45 caliber shell casing found in the rental car was a ballistic match to casings recovered at the crime scene. And then there was the mystery box. Prosecutors told the jury that Shayanna Jenkins removed a box from the basement of their home at Aaron's request the night of the killing, and they believed that box contained the murder weapon. That gun was never found. The defense acknowledged that Hernandez was present that night, but argued there was not enough proof that he pulled the trigger or orchestrated the murder. They pointed to the lack of direct evidence and floated alternative scenarios, but the jury was not buying it. And now we get to the part that cut deeper than any verdict, the rift between Shayanna and her sister Shania. Before the murder, those two were tight. They were the ones who had introduced Lloyd and Hernandez through family connections. After the arrest, the divide was immediate and brutal. Shayanna stood with Hernandez. She attended every hearing, sat behind him in court, and comforted his family. Shania aligned with the Lloyd family and testified against Hernandez. During the trial, Shania took the stand and described visiting Shayanna's home hours after learning about Lloyd's death. She testified that Shayanna was acting secretive, receiving texts and calls, going to the EC basement multiple times without explanation. The implication was clear. Shayanna was retrieving or disposing of evidence, possibly the gun box, while her own sister was upstairs mourning the man she loved. The sisters sat on opposite sides of the courtroom aisle throughout the trial. They barely looked at each other. Media described the rift as abundantly clear and on full display. One sister chose her man, the other chose the truth as she saw it, and neither was willing to budge. On April 15, 2015, after roughly 3 days of deliberation, the jury came back with their verdict: guilty of first-degree murder, guilty on all 5 weapons charges. Under Massachusetts law, that meant a mandatory life sentence without the possibility of parole. Hernandez was sentenced immediately. He was 25 years old, and when Shayanna took the stand during the trial, she did so with immunity. She admitted to removing the box from the basement at Hernandez's request, but swore she never looked inside and said she disposed of it at a random location. A perjury charge was filed against her for her testimony, but it was later dropped. She walked out of that courtroom still standing by Aaron Hernandez, still wearing his name, still refusing to believe that the man she loved was capable of what the jury said he did.
Yes, of course I do. I'd be a cold person to leave someone that had nobody at all.
Now, the Odin Lloyd case was not the only murder trial Hernandez faced. In a separate case, he was charged with a 2012 double homicide involving Daniel De Abreu and Safiro Furtado, 2 men shot outside a Boston nightclub. The prosecution's star witness, Alexander Bradley, claimed he drove, while Hernandez fired the shots over a spilled drink at a club. But Bradley's criminal history and inconsistencies under cross-examination created enough reasonable doubt that the jury acquitted Hernandez on all murder charges in April 2017. He was convicted only only of unlawful firearm possession. That acquittal came just 5 days before he was found dead in his cell. Co-defendant Ernest Wallace eventually pleaded guilty to accessory after the fact in the Lloyd case, while Carlos Ortiz was convicted as an accessory. Hernandez's family attempted to vacate his Lloyd conviction posthumously after his suicide, but those efforts ultimately failed. As for Shayanna and Shayanna, they remain estranged to this day. No reconciliation has been reported, no public olive branches. The murder of Odin Lloyd did not just end a man's life and send another to prison forever. It split a family clean down the middle, and the two women who once shared a home, shared holidays, and shared a bond as sisters now exist on opposite sides of a divide that shows no signs of closing. Shayanna chose Aaron, Shayanna chose Odin, and both of them have had to live with what that choice cost them ever since. We've come to the end of the script. Thanks for watching. To stay connected for more, please click on the card showing on the screen.